I'll start right off the bat with public participation. No? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak? Hearing none. She's going to call in a little bit late, but she will. Yes, thank you. So the next action item is to accept the resignation of Jessica Bowler as the Board of Education Vice Chair. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And discussion.
Can I just add one quick thing?
Please do.
While we do this, just because Jessica has resigned, we have a new gentleman along the table which you're going to introduce shortly. And I just want to say,
Stealing my
we all
thunder.
want to say hi. No, I just want to say before we go into the biography, I thought it'd be great to say welcome first before we get into our action items. So thank you for coming, Kirk, and we'll get to that shortly, but I thought it'd be a good way to transition.
Yeah, actually, when I said I second, I didn't know if I was yet official.
You are official.
You are
were
official.
official this
Okay.
morning.
We have a
So
whole
welcome.
rollout planned soon, but I thought it would be good just to kind of break the ice. You're here, who's the guy with the bow tie? And welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your aggressive seconding.
Yes.
I love it, I love it.
That's because we really didn't want to accept it.
Okay.
Yes. Are there any other comments?
Is it appropriate to make a comment?
Yes, of course.
I didn't finish
I have
writing my statement, but I was working on it.
Okay.
So I'm going to just ad lib. So I would just like to take a moment to express my sincerest gratitude to Jessica Bowler for her many years of outstanding and dedicated service to our community, educators, and our learners. Furthermore, I would like to thank her for her circumspection and fund of knowledge. This is where I finish on this page. I found Jessica's expertise and experience a valuable asset to Madison's educational community. I thank her and will miss her on our team.
I'd also like to say I'll miss her. She was very knowledgeable, great colleague, and we always have good talent.
I would like to recognize Jessica's 5 years on the board. She served in many capacities as our vice chair and the chair of the planning committee. And during her tenure, the board addressed some really important topics, including a comprehensive facilities study, which ultimately led to the town referendum to build a new school, as well as transformative curriculum and instructional programs, and the first Board of Ed strategic plan in over 10 years. We all know that volunteer service is a challenge, and to those of us who serve in capacities, we all can recognize for as many years as we've been here, 10 minutes versus 10 years for Sept, that it is, being an elected official is a significant contribution, and 5 years should really be commended, and I'm grateful to Jessica for her service. Yes.
Happy asked me to also share with everyone that she thanks Jessica for her years of knowledge, service, dedication, and will also miss her.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So the motion is on the floor to accept, sadly, Jessica's resignation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. The next item is the introduction of Kirk Barnaby to the Board of Education. Kirk was sworn in this morning and unanimously recommended from the Board of Selectmen at this morning's meeting, and so we're very grateful to have him. As way of introduction, Kirk can correct me if any of this is wrong, but Kirk is a 5-year resident of Madison and a new member of our Board of Education. He comes to us with a degree in mathematics and economics, coursework and exams for his PhD in economics. His occupational background is also in economics, consulting, and investment management. Kirk's past and present community service and political service include running the elementary school town fair in Chatham, New Jersey for a year. He also was a volunteer for the Girl Scouts of Connecticut where he was an active contributor in their fair and a major fundraiser for that organization. We're delighted to welcome Kirk to the board table tonight. And I'm really grateful. Kirk called this morning and already is hitting the ground running, asking for review of the 10-year plan and the balanced scorecard. So I'm really excited to have him here. So welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. You should be aware that with respect to my Girl Scout service, I was actually voluntold for that because Mary is the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Connecticut.
Oh, I did not know that. That's neat. Well, thank her too. And thank her for sharing you with us.
And if I may too, during the election season, I obviously don't get involved in elections, but candidates typically ask to set up a meeting with the superintendent in advance of the election. We had a chance to meet last summer. I thoroughly enjoyed our meeting.
As did I.
And Katie can share my reaction when I was told. So I really appreciate having her on the table. It's great.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so item number 5 is the election of our vice chair. So is there a motion, yes, to nominate a candidate for vice chair on the floor? I would like to nominate Galen Colley.
Second.
Second and third. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a statement to read from Seth. So this is on his behalf, although I share the sentiment greatly. So Seth asked me to read this. I believe he submitted it. So it is with great pride and confidence that I hereby second the nomination, which I think he technically can't do, of my friend Galen Colley to serve as the next vice chair of the Madison Board of Education. I do so because Galen is one of the most thoughtful, intelligent, and capable people I know. But even more importantly, I firmly believe Galen is the right person for this job at this moment. Galen will help guide the board in a manner befitting of our students and our community. Since his first day on the board, Galen has been an exemplary board member. His integrity is unassailable. When he disagrees, he finds a respectful way to voice his opinion. He understands the importance of accepting a board action and supporting that action once a vote is cast. And Galen understands that the board functions best when it is acting transparently and within its legal scope. Furthermore, Galen is present. He's present when volunteer opportunities arise to share in the leadership of the board. He's present when opportunities arise to faithfully express dissent and recommend alternate approaches for the board to consider. He's present to put his voice and his vote on the record while respecting the democratic process. And he will be present to help lead the board as part of a collaborative executive committee. Galen is also blessed with a good sense of humor and perspective, qualities that will allow him to appreciate the irony in my description of his presence, even as I am not present due to business travel this evening. Galen, I look forward to benefiting from your wisdom, insight, and presence at the executive committee meetings. I respectfully ask for everyone's vote in support of Galen to serve as the board's next vice chair. Were I present for this meeting, I would surely vote accordingly. Thank you.
That's awfully nice.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right.
He doesn't get a gavel.
No, but you can move.
Oh, okay.
Come sit by me.
All right.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Motion to appoint.
Oh, forgive me. I have can I have a motion to appoint, an appointment of the Madison Public Schools Interim Director of Special Education?
So,
Second?
Second.
Discussion,
If I may.
please.
So I think the board is apprised of our need to have an interim director in light of an FMLA leave. And throughout that process of getting a steady hand, one of the things, or three of the things that I was looking for to make a recommendation to the board is somebody with high qualifications, high credentials, somebody with a lot of experience, and somebody who can really have a measure of flexibility. That is not easy to find those three criteria, but earlier this evening, we had many board members had a chance to meet with, and I recommend Lois Pernice to join the board, join the district in the interim position. Lois has about 17 years of experience as a special education director, so a great deal of experience. She's worked across the whole spectrum from pre-K all the way up through high school. One program in particular that we take great pride in the effectiveness is the way we are able to address the needs of our kids with serious emotional issues in our ESS program, which is now a middle school through high school program. Lois had adopted and brought the same program into her prior district as well in Weston, at Weston High School. Prior to her time in Weston, she was a school psychologist and understands the challenges that we have in that field. I'm sure Violet made a nice connection during our cheese and crackers discussion earlier about the life of a psychologist. But I believe that for the time period right now, to have a veteran who understands the field, who can jump right in and provide support to staff and administrators alike, I think Lois would be a tremendous fit and asset to our team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Welcome officially. Lois, thank you.
Lois.
We really appreciate your help in
Thank
this
you.
time.
Thank you.
And Lois had to
Okay.
drive back to Brookfield.
Yes,
So I
please.
encourage her once the appointment was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, see you soon.
Let us know if we
You
can
will
help.
see Gail in the morning.
Okay. Board of Education Student Representatives report. The board will probably notice that we have Jackie here for her first official meeting. Welcome, and Ryan's back with us, so
Yeah.
let us know, how's it going?
Well, there isn't that much to report because school hasn't been in session for that long. But I will just say that school has started and the classes have been pretty good. I think all the students have the beginning of school energy that we typically have, not like the end of the year where everyone's like, oh my God.
How long does that energy last? To give it a few weeks?
I'd say like a month or two.
At least till the first prep rally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of our sports and clubs have been starting up again, and next Friday will be our first pep rally.
Does that mean that's the first home football game too?
Yes.
And that'll be a wake-up call?
Mm.
Can you describe for board members who may be unfamiliar what a wake-up call is at Hand High School?
Okay, so
Yeah.
the whole band and the flag squad, the marching band and the flag squad, parades around the halls early in the morning, right after announcement, second period, and they play their music to get everyone riled up for the day.
It's quite loud.
Like that.
A band in the hallways in high school. Yeah. Good.
We'll enjoy it. Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, so to build on Ryan's opening of the school year, I will add that, we're off to a great start so far. We are fully staffed. We have kids all over the place. We had some late registrations, but the class sizes are still in good shape, a nice balance of numbers. So nothing new to report of areas of concern for the board in the class size world. It was hot last week in our elementary schools. It was really hot. Hand was freezing. I was in Hand, I had to put the coat on. It just is,
Did you set the temperature?
it's air balance, yeah, you guys know I like it 68, 67 now. But it's air balance, same temperature in Hand all year, so it was really nice compared to being out in the heat. But our elementary schools, we had classrooms in the upper 80s inside the classrooms. Now, a few years ago, we did dismiss early on some of those days. We did not have what we call now a heat plan, where we can circulate kids into cooler areas of the building. Since that time, we've changed that. So we've tried to avoid the early dismissals on the heat days. Island Avenue, for example, has 3 fourth grade classrooms, a resource room, a library, and a computer lab that are all air conditioned, that we're able to get kids in and out of throughout the day. So the principal there, Becky Frost, put together a schedule of certain class periods would go in throughout the day to keep kids cool. Jeffrey has a similar situation with the portable trailers where they have, I'm going to say 3 second grade classrooms, maybe 4 second grade classrooms, another primary classroom, a special education classroom, and then an office essentially, which is the size of a classroom that we're able to use as well for cooling stations for kids, plus the library has AC, plus the computer lab. Ryerson's a little more challenging. Ryerson does not have the rooms that are temporary trailers with AC. So there are 3 locations in Ryerson that Mrs. Spooner had used to circulate kids in and out of. And it was hot. This was definitely hot. Half a Polson has AC, about half. So you can get in and out of those classrooms, for the most part, once or twice throughout the day. All of the language arts classrooms are internal classrooms, are interior, so those are all air conditioned. So you at least got your language arts classroom to be cool. But those 3 days were really, really hot. And they definitely have an impact on the experience in school. On Friday, we broke, and we're, I think, back to normal. But we hit the ground running 4-day week this week. Unfortunately, that'll be a little bit of a rhythm the first 3 days because of some holidays. Jewish holiday this week and next week, and then Labor Day last week. But beyond that, we're back and we're in a groove. Any other questions on that before next topic? Okay, so I'm excited. I have a document to hand out to the board. The board, after quite a period of time, adopted a strategic plan. We have used the Harvard business model of the balanced scorecard to guide that process. I had some fun over the summer. So I don't know if you have an office, you have files at home or at work, you purge occasionally. I did a little purging this summer, and I went through some older files, and I found the very first education summit from November of 2012 that I facilitated to develop a district vision statement with the community and then the board, which the board adopted a few months after that. We had 3 education summits. Those were about 45 to 50 or so people were invited to attend to give input into the district vision. The board adopted that vision a few months later, and then we developed the following year belief statements, which we call our theory of action. And those 2 documents lead the binder that I'm going to hand out to the board. And I think it's important to go back to the roots again of why. And one part that I see as a key role for a superintendent is to always narrate the why of our work, to make clear we know why we do what we do. Lo and behold, over 2, 3, 4 years, we were able to develop initiatives and so forth towards that work of our vision. And then finally in May, we adopted our strategic plan, which is in the form of the balanced scorecard. So in this binder, I'll give every board member a copy tonight. I think it's important you have some of the key documents. The very first document is the strategy map, which is the list of all of our strategic objectives. And then the actual scorecard, which lists our measures and our initiatives. Behind that are supplementary documents. Each strategic objective has a definition. So when we say cultivate whole child development, that's not going to mean 10 things to 10 people around the table tonight. We have definitions that were adopted and codified in the document. And then probably the newest attachment that is the most helpful is a project timeline. I'm going to thank Gail and Gail's assistant, Ching, who did an amazing job color coding a project timeline over the next, is it 2 years? Of the different measures that we'll be collecting, and internal and external, over the course of that time period. So this is a good core document. This is just a prelude to what we'll be uploading to the website, and the website will have all of this electronically and then some. But I thought that this would be great for board members because it just grounds you in our strategic plan. Okay, so I'm going to pass these out.
That's our side.
Thanks.
Mary Grace.
To the kids.
Actually, Greg, I'm sorry, Sept and Happy. So maybe we put these in the mailbox. Evie, so Laura and Sept and Happy. Can I have a copy? Oh, you don't have one? There we go.
Give them
So
all our secrets.
if you can go to, just open it up just as is. Just very quick access is the strategy map on the left, which all the strategic objectives exist. And then the scorecard itself, which are the objectives on that page, the measures and initiatives that go with them. So that's just a quick reference. Those are repeated again in the binder, but just as a quick reference, you can boil down a strategic plan to 3 pages. And in my world of strategic planning, I've never seen that before, and I think it's a wonderful thing. If you turn the page, you'll see the district vision. There's a tab page that says district vision. I just want to point you to the bottom of the district vision, if you can note the date. Okay, 2013, 5 years ago, that this vision was adopted by the board. And that vision was adopted after 3 education summits, which involved 50+ members of the community before the board got their fingerprints on it. The next page is belief statements about the work. And you notice again the adoption of December of 2014. We took about a year to develop these statements, and it's in the form of an if-then. So the mission's clear. Our mission is to effectively prepare every student to be a citizen who makes a positive and unique contribution in a complex global society. Then we will do all of these things. Okay, that's the beliefs that we have behind that. And then we get into the plan itself. Again, a copy of the strategy map, which is a one-pager of all the objectives. And each objective, each bubble, has a definition on the next tab. So you can see that and get your own, why are we doing it, what are we doing, what are we trying to accomplish, and how are we going to accomplish it? That is how we have developed our definitions. The next tab is the actual scorecard, which takes our objectives, our measures, and our initiatives and lays it out in a 2-page document. And the very, very last page you have to fold out. And this is an amazing document just to help on a 1-page glance. The very, very last page. And that is the Balanced Scorecard Project timeline. So you have all the initiatives. You have the administrator in charge, so the admin team, everyone is represented here taking on a project, on an objective. The frequency that we will measure. And then over the course of the 18-19 and 1920 school year, it's color-coded by the work we're going to be doing. So it's a nice at a glance.
And this is a living document that if there are initiatives that the board would like to add or
Yeah.
that's still.
So we have a review process, it'll be an official annual review, where we could be sunsetting some initiatives and some of these objectives because work's been accomplished and achieved, and we're pleased with where we are. Something else has changed, and we want to be able to respond flexibly. But this is a very, now as I always say too, we'll go as deep as requested. So if you look at a specific objective and want to know more, we can go deeper and deeper. But we tried to give enough so it's digestible and be able to respond to any questions or issues and so forth.
Very impressive.
And that'll be a regular topic of reporting. This is important work. It really is important work. Thank you, Neil.
And really our guiding light in terms of the work that we are overseeing. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
About the evaluation under the stakeholders.
Yeah.
You have SAT, ACT.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of assessments at the lower level? Did I miss that?
Yep, so we have, by the end of this year, one of our strategic objectives is to, and I want to make sure I get the word right,
Yeah.
actively communicate individual and district performance. So if you take a look at the objective P5, right, square in the middle,
Okay.
that's colored, shaded, because it's a priority objective. So by the end of this school year, we're going to have a student performance report that will have 4 different levels of student performance across the system. The very basic skills in reading and math. Our next level will be our performance assessments that are curriculum embedded, that measure critical thinking, creative thinking, and so forth. Our third level are going to be our interdisciplinary assessments that we give at 2, 4, 6, and 8. Some of those are still under construction. So those are a science and math kind of interdisciplinary performance assessment. Then the 4th level is what you're pointing to. It would be the terminal assessments, SAT, AP, UConn course, college admissions, those types of assessments.
Thank you.
Make sense?
That-
So that kind of covers in a more holistic way student performance and puts kind of basic skills piece in one proper place, but then the district vision goes well beyond that. So how are we going to capture that with student performance? And by the end of this year, that's why that objective is highlighted, because that is a target for the end of this year. We want to be able to come to the board and look at student performance in a variety of ways, in a variety of different levels.
Are there standardized testing as well as performance-based testing?
They are, and those are, you have the SAT and so forth.
I mean, at the lower level?
No, those are, well, yes, we do. In basic skills, we do. In reading and math, we do, yeah.
We have universal screen information that would be part of that.
Yeah.
questions? Anybody else?
Any other questions?
I'd just like to comment, this is so helpful and beautifully organized, and
Yeah.
thank you. Just looking at the strategy map and thinking about, I know we're gonna talk about committees later, but seeing a lot that's reflected in sort of the realignment of our committees in terms of whole child development, developing a dynamic and engaging curriculum. I really see that fitting so nicely in our curriculum and development committee, as well as communicating individual and district performance, like you just mentioned, Violet, as well as community feedback, parent satisfaction surveys, lots of work that the communication committee could be involved with. And I just see these priorities our committee is really reflecting that and having a place to fit with this, whether it's modernizing facilities or other
Yep.
communication. So it just aligns nicely.
If I can add that, Emily, we have a sheet that Gail and I use internally where there's an administrator's name.
Yeah.
So on the scorecard, or on the project timeline, you can see
Yeah.
the administrators.
Yeah.
So we put a name there. We could also do something that would have a board committee attached
Yeah,
to the objectives too.
that would be great.
So that way we could see that we know on a regular basis on those agendas, that objective will be reported out on a regular basis. So
Yeah.
it keeps the work that's critical and important up front,
Yeah,
you know, so that way it's not just in the
and I
back.
feel like they all have nice homes.
Very much aligns,
So,
yeah.
Appreciate that,
Just
thank
a
you.
quick comment, I know we have to move on. First, I want to commend you and your team for using a balanced scorecard. I think Madison is fairly unique in using a balanced scorecard as a strategic plan measure, so.
We certainly are.
I really, and I commend you for doing that. I think it would be good to report out how it is. Particularly on the internal process, if you could sort of summarize that, how are the teachers reacting to this? They are very much stakeholders in the
Yeah.
internal process piece
Yeah.
here too, so.
Yeah, so we had really good discussions at the admin team level over the summer about this. Most of the work, in my experience, is local. So when I was in the classroom at the building level, an awareness of the system's work is critical, but inevitably the question always comes back to, what's this mean for me? So being able to answer that question, in my experience, is the most important approach as an administrator, as a leader. We could obviously go in great depth with all staff about all different levels of this strategic plan, and a lot of it will not apply to me locally. So being able to target that at the building level, and the admin team have talked about, there's been some rolling out of this already through faculty meetings and so forth, but more importantly, when can we do more? I was at, for example, Mr. Salutary had a leadership team meeting last week, and with all of his program coordinators and teacher leaders, rolled this out and we had a conversation about it. And inevitably the question is, what's this mean for me as a classroom teacher now? So that's our approach, is to try to localize the impact as opposed to going with too grand of an introduction.
Thank you for that.
And if I can add to, and I think Gail would agree with this, a good chunk of this work had already been happening. It was a matter of formalizing it, codifying it in a strategic plan. Some of it has been added, there's no question. But the curriculum work, for example, that's been going on for the better part of 5 years now. So now they're seeing it codified versus we have a new curriculum initiative. Make sense?
Can I ask a basic question?
Yeah.
Just for students in the room and parents. How will you assess the student and parent?
So if you, I could have planned that question, thank you.
Oh,
So if you take a look, if I can hold this up, if you take a look at the 3 stakeholder, okay, right here on the first page, there's 3 stakeholder objectives. And if you go to the scorecard on the very next page, you will see each of the stakeholder objectives on the left, S1, S2, and S3, and then just go to the center column, and you'll see the measures, okay, by which we will assess. So in these S1, S2, S3 columns here, or rows, those are our outcome measures that we've identified. Because unfortunately, public schools have been given outcome measures that tend to warp the teaching and learning process and focus on very narrow bands of what we do in the classroom, where these outcome measures we felt would at least kind of comfortably align with the district vision. So these are outcomes that we developed, these measures that we developed in concert with the admin team and our consultant that we used over the last year or two. Obviously, we're test driving some of these for the very first time. some of them on, SAT, AP, we do those every year, but a parent satisfaction survey, we just started searching, with a vendor to say, you do satisfaction surveys, how would you construct one? What's an appropriate one in a public school setting? So we're developing those. So some of them are new. The alumni study, for example, there's vendors that do alumni studies. I use that in my prior district. And we would do 2 years out, 4 years out, 6 years out. And then College Board tracks some of this long-term data that we'd be able to kind of grab. But on S3, around student performance, some of that is available, some of that we need to actually find that data, the student assessment data. Once you get beyond S3 and into the Cultivate Whole Child and below, those are all internal measures that we will be, either we have them or we're going to be developing them. Look scared, you okay?
No.
Okay. A lot of information. There's a lot there.
It's okay.
That's why you're here till 10 o'clock at night. It's really great work.
So Gail and I talked about preparing for board meetings. We'd like to keep this on the forefront of reports.
Yeah.
And just for conversation, and even if it does happen at the committee level, that we can keep engaging at the business meetings around this work. I mean, this is the guiding document for the system.
No, I think that's a good idea.
I had mentioned this before, and I still would like it to be considered, and there's plenty of time to implement. I'd like to see something where the students are interviewed as they exit the high school. I think that's valuable information as well, if we can.
Yeah.
I know you're going to look 2 years out, but,
Yeah.
Their experience while they were in the building is
Yeah.
also.
And I think in deference, Violet did raise that. I want to be very upfront. You did raise that. That struck a chord with me and Gail. We talked about that offline. And I think that the training was so far down the track that it didn't get included in a measure. But I am going to second Violet's suggestion. And I can make a commitment to say that we can do something that might not be a formal measure, but we can get it off the ground as a pilot perhaps. And then when we do our annual assessment, consider kind of baking it into the measurements. I feel very strongly that I think it's a powerful approach for us.
You need to compare that to the 2-year out, right?
Yeah, and not to put you guys on the spot, can I ask them
But-
a
But
question?
you look sleepy.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I know you're not senior, are you
I'm
senior? You're a
now.
senior.
Now he is.
That's right, so how would you feel about something similar to an exit interview, where perhaps you sat down either individually with some peers and answered some questions about your experience, good, bad,
I think would be useful.
you think?
I definitely think like a lot of kids have different perspectives than the ideas expressed here. I definitely could see that being really beneficial, especially at the end of high school year. Most of the seniors aren't like really doing anything anyway.
Yeah. We'll fill in that gap for
Yeah.
you.
Don't you worry. With 5 APs, you'll be
I mean,
working all
I'll
the
be
way
doing
through
stuff,
June.
but I'm not the majority, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an important piece of information that you can offer us. And, in terms of being fluid, if it's necessary, we can incorporate some thoughts.
If it's okay, can I put together a potential draft pilot around that for this year and bring it back to the next board meeting and the meeting after?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
Give me homework, thank you.
Thanks,
I
Violet.
I think it's a great.
Better
idea.
you than me.
Yeah.
Thank you, I do appreciate it. I think it will
Absolutely.
offer us some insight.
And, just to build off of that, we really try to search for appropriate, if you will, measures. We're a mission-based organization who everyone who's not an educator wants to make us a bottom line organization. And that is when bad things happen in schools. So I love the idea of trying to gather qualitative, which could be also be quantitative data to help us on the continuous improvement. So I think it's a great idea, and I'm on it.
Cool.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other feedback or questions? Excellent.
Feel like got everything?
Okay.
All right. Moving on to board member comments. So I just checked my phone. Happy asked for this item to be added to the agenda. The review of the board decision-making process. She hasn't called in yet. I hope she's okay. She's down south with the hurricane looming, so I think from what she said, they have her working overtime to try and expedite her business so that she can get home. I just wanted to mention that, and I think there'll be a bigger report later in the meeting, but we did have our board retreat on Saturday, where we really went through a lot of how the board makes decisions and roles and responsibilities of the board. From my perspective, decisions that are properly the responsibility of the board are made by the board, and that the decisions that are properly the responsibility of the superintendent are made by the superintendent and reported to the board. I don't know if that would have answered Happy's questions. So if, just given that this was her item, certainly if anybody has any feedback or questions or comments, this would be the time to raise them, or we can add it again at a time when she's present.
I wasn't there. Galen was kind enough to fill me in.
Oh,
I'd be
good.
interested in recircling the topic that she wanted, because I'm not aware of what that would have been, so.
Yeah, we did talk about that, because we were missing a couple members of the board at the retreat. So we'll have to come up with a way that we can incorporate all that we learned, and make it available to everybody.
This is,
Yes,
Yes, right.
that was emailed to you.
right. So Tom Mooney did an excellent job of going through this
Vision,
outline.
yeah.
And we can probably follow that as for a summary.
That's our guide, yeah. Anybody have any?
I was going to actually ask if we could add, if I could make a motion to add an agenda item to
Sure.
tonight's meeting so that we could discuss that.
Sure, so that would be 9.2, Laura?
No, it would be 10.
Maybe at the end.
It would be 10? Okay,
Would that be tonight?
yes.
Just to give a report
On the retreat.
Yeah.
So a motion
to add an agenda item to tonight's meetings, just report on the special
Sure.
meeting. And
Sure.
then maybe have more discussion if it's all fresh in our heads and come back for this item as well, I suppose,
Okay.
or another time.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So it's added now to the agenda, and it's number 10, so we can pick it up right now?
You need to vote.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? I think, right, one has to, this, no, he doesn't have to abstain.
No.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm new at this. Okay,
We voted all night, it's
so
fine.
now, I know, I love
Like a veteran.
it. So,
Great, so we'll talk about that later.
no, you can talk about it now, because we just added it as 10.
It's going to vote to add.
Oh,
to-
no,
it's tonight's meeting.
Okay, so
Later.
we'll move on. To the
I
committee
do
report.
have what, I was hoping to also make a statement.
Sure.
As part of board member comments. if that's
Okay, certainly.
Okay, so I am submitting this statement. It's being jointly submitted by Board of Education member Sept Klaskin, who's at a meeting tonight, myself, Greg DeSantis, and Tom Pellegrino. In recent weeks, there have been a few who have questioned the direction and focus of the Board of Education and stated that the board has failed to accomplish anything this year. We submit that these statements are unfounded. In the past 7 months, under the current leadership, the Board of Education has seen many accomplishments, notably the unanimous establishment of a new facilities committee, which had not previously existed, the unanimous expansion of the Effective School Solutions Program, already in place at Daniel Hand High School, to now also include services for many additional students at Polson Middle School, the unanimous adoption and revision of many policies, such as those on social networking, health and medical records, IEPs, and the special education program, unanimous efforts to improve school security, the unanimous adoption of the balanced scorecard, which is focused on the overall vision and strategic objectives of the district, the unanimous adoption of a major 10-year capital maintenance plan for the district, and last meeting's disunited approval of our new board committee policy, which for the first time refocuses a committee on the critical areas of curriculum and student development and establishes a new committee dedicated to communication, which we believe will further advance the work of this board in collaboration with our community. It is our hope that by reflecting here on the many recent board accomplishments that those questioning voices will rejoin our many efforts toward collaborative, student-centered progress for our town. Regardless of the personal or political feelings of any member of this Board of Education, the work of the board will steadily continue toward major improvements for the children in this district, the educators of Madison Public Schools, and for the people of our town, just as major improvements have been efficiently, effectively, and most often unanimously realized for the past 7 months under Chairwoman Stein. Thank you.
I'm just going to follow that up with my own prepared statement. So I just want to address the events surrounding the commentary the past couple of weeks. This board of elected volunteers and its leadership have consistently and tirelessly worked on one common goal, and that is helping the children and their families of our district. We are guided and inspired by the dedication of the teachers of the district staff, of the teachers and district staff that ensure safety, education, and well-being of Madison students. While at times we may have disagreements, references to systemic dysfunction or politics ahead of principle fly in the face of our actual accomplishments. As a board, we still have a great deal of difficult work ahead of us. I know that we can continue to work together to find the best path forward for the children and families of the district, as well as for the town of Madison. The quality of the people who remain on this board in the face of these challenges should not be questioned. I am confident that we are the best group for the task, and we will form the consensus necessary to be effective. Thank you. Any other board member comments? Hearing none, let's move on to committee reports. Planning committee, did not meet. Personnel committee.
Negotiations are ongoing, as they have been, and we have begun our teacher negotiations.
Policy committee,
Nothing new to report.
finance committee,
Nothing to report.
okay.
Sorry.
Learn liaison,
Nothing to report. The next meeting of the year is this week, in the school year.
facilities committee.
So we don't have a formal report to present, but I wanted to highlight 2 upcoming things for the good of the order. We had a meeting recently, and I'm sure Seth will update you fully on that at some point. But these 2 things relate to the 2 upcoming facilities committee meetings. So we have, as you know, probably a facilities committee meeting on the 20th of this month. That is then followed by a tri-board meeting with Colliers International there regarding the 10-year plan. So just wanted to put that on everyone's radar again, that is one of the things we discussed at the last meeting, and that is upcoming for us.
Do you have the date on that?
Yeah,
Did you say?
20th.
Okay.
September 20th. 6:30 facilities, and tri-board follows immediately at 7. Just want to highlight that for everybody. And similarly, we,
Location.
that's
Here.
Right here.
That's here,
And
yep.
just, Greg, the purpose, just if I can be clear.
Please, go
Yeah,
for
if you don't
it.
mind. The
Leave it.
purpose is that we had a meeting of the boards of finance, select, and education back in July. And there was information, a lot of information shared. And our goal is to be very, very clear that this purpose is just to answer questions, clarifications. Some things came up about individual projects, and we've solicited through a couple of emails any information that you may want to request in advance, any questions you may have in advance. Our Colliers representative, Chuck Larry, who will be here, Bill McMinn. It's purely a Q&A, purely Q&A.
Get ready, you're about to do that again.
Okay.
So the other meeting that we have upcoming is on October 2nd. We've actually slightly adjusted the time of the facilities committee meeting due to the darkness outside that happens earlier. We're going to be meeting from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at Brown Middle School. Ultimately, the meeting will be in room 230, but I believe it will begin outside. So again, that's October 2nd, 6 to 8, Brown Middle School. And that is another committee meeting that will focus on a specific topic, the OPAL Outdoor Play and Learning Project at Brown Middle School. We will be hearing from the
Mike Segan.
Yeah,
Mike Segan is the
Go ahead.
landscape
Yeah.
architect. Yeah.
And really the purpose of that meeting, and we'd like to encourage anyone who might be watching at home or anybody in the audience, is to get as many folks there who might have questions about the transition at Brown, connected to Opal and the outdoor play and learning space that's currently there, and what the committee has been working on for the last year in terms of feedback on a potential outdoor play and learning project at the school. That's going to be open to everybody. We'd love to see a lot of parents and families and interested town members there who have questions about what this space might look like.
I just had a light bulb moment.
Go for it.
I wonder if, I know there's an open house coming up at Brown, because Max just dug that out of his backpack today.
Yeah.
Bottom of the backpack. I wonder if we might let parents know
That's a good idea.
there.
And I believe Tom
That
said
does
he's
mean-
going to be noticing out through.
Okay, okay.
But no, we should probably do multiple
Well,
methods.
so
of
at
notice.
the committee asked if I would notify, and really, the elementary parent population is important because they'll be sending their children to Brown, it's 4th and 5th graders.
Or anybody in the pre-K
Anybody, yeah,
world.
yeah.
Right.
Thinking down the line,
Sure.
5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
might be of interest to them.
Can I ask a question? Any chance that they'll have like an architectural model available? Or
Oh,
do
yeah.
they have one?
There's schematics and.
Not
And
physical
actually-
model. No,
It's not 3D, it's like on a paper.
Well,
But
they'll have it on the
It
screen.
shows, it was neat because it shows what it looks like now, and then it's kind of superimposed on.
On the Google map, like that Google Earth, like. site.
Yeah.
I like
It's pretty
3D.
cool.
Me too.
Can you repeat the location and date and time?
Yeah, sure, I'll read it again. So it's Tuesday, October 2nd, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at Brown Middle School, room 230. Although, again, I believe we're going to begin outside, because then it'll be an archive.
Right,
Right.
got it.
So we're going to look at the space and then go inside.
Will people know how to get to that play area? Because
We'll have to
that's
mark
not
it.
Yeah.
very visible.
We'll flag people.
I think the facilities committee is a pretty loud and vocal group, and we can point them in the right direction.
Sounds great.
10 to at 7?
It's a good point. We will make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
will
was
be
Six
in
o'clock.
Yeah, I was waiting, we had talked about waiting for this meeting first, and then we notified go out this week to the parent community, and then I like the idea, we can have a handout or a notification of the open houses as well.
It would also be useful if there's any way that that could be messaged out through the PTOs. I'm sure
Yep.
that will be of interest.
The more the
I hear you,
merrier. Hint, hint. Any
Thanks.
questions? No, thank you, facilities.
Thanks.
Audience response to information presented? Okay, so moving on. Dawn has got anything first. Consent agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Do I?
Can-
The
Yes.
donations are in.
I just, since Seth is in here.
I was
I'd
just
like
gonna say that.
Call out to generous donation from Ryerson Elementary School PTO for $1,950 to offset field trip costs. I'd also like to thank Fancherella Dental Group for their donation of mouth guards to the athletic department.
Thank you, thank you,
And
thank you.
thanking them.
Moving on, I would like a motion to approve the minutes of the August 28th Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? I think just Kirk and Galen have to abstain.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you.
Because you weren't here. Motion
Good night,
carries.
guys.
Good night.
Thank you both.
Bye. A motion to approve the removal of used books and equipment.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? Do you wanna, let's just.
This is a standard practice. It's a board policy, 3260. Periodically, when we're going through different types of equipment, and especially the books, I know we did a lot of gardening with books that just really are not usable. And that's a practice that we do every year for all 6 school libraries. So we have a file with everything listed. So if anyone's interested in looking at what we have to remove or are removing, we have that and can be furnished. We used to have that as part of the board packet, and we decided to save a small forest and not print that out all the time. But if you're interested, we have it available.
So Tom, where do the books go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of the books we have been able to donate to a place in Farmington that's forming a camp for kids. So we have been able to donate some of the library books there. We've also gone out to a couple other organizations, but a lot of the organizations that we've reached out to demand that we package and move the books to their organizations. So this other one is the only one that comes to us and we'll pick it up. So we've been able to donate through them. But otherwise, they are disposed of.
And Kirk, some of them are gently used, I would say, and probably need to be recycled out. But titles and, time-tested titles we keep in the libraries.
Good question. Anybody else have a question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Action item to approve the designation, I need a motion to approve the designation of standing committee meetings. Evelyn?
Members, not meetings.
Member, what did I say?
Meetings.
Meetings.
Members.
Second,
Second.
and discussion. So, I just want to be clear, as chair, it's, my responsibility to make appointments to the committees. Given that we've had a resignation and we have added a new committee, it was necessary to make some reappointments. My goal was to balance out the committee designations based on board member requests and workload and the overall responsibilities of the board committees. I feel like I was able to accomplish that with as little movement as possible. So most people are on the same committees that they were. And we all, well, you all have 2 committees each, except for Greg and Galen, and I really thank you for taking on an additional committee each. You both have 3 committees, so thank you for that. And then in addition to that, although I wonder if that should be, I should have mentioned that in board member comments, the First Selectman's office contacted me today. They are looking for 2 volunteers to serve as the strategic plan liaisons. If you're interested in that designation, please email me by Friday, and I can let them know that we will be there. All right? Any questions?
I have a comment that I just want to make. I know that the personnel committee makeup has been altered, and I do want to just note that I think it does send a message to our negotiation team, and that being the union reps, that that we weren't really committed as we should have been with our members. So I just want to throw it out there that it's a little uncomfortable changing midstream.
So a couple of things on that. I did speak with Heather today, who in all her years on the board has seen a lot of turnover and has experienced this before. So she reassured me that it would be fine for especially in teacher negotiations that are just brand new underway. And as far as the Teamster negotiations that are still ongoing and much deeper in, Greg has graciously offered to continue that to its conclusion. So that I thank you for that. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's very helpful, because I think the Teamsters is a smaller crowd.
Yeah.
But I also think that, I'm concerned with the teachers thinking that we aren't taking our role seriously in their negotiation and everything.
Thankfully, there's just one person different on that committee, but.
They're valuable.
And, no, it's gonna be happy and,
Oh, so neither one are gonna be there?
no, Greg's the only one leaving.
Okay.
Tom will chair,
I'm still on it.
you're still
Okay.
on it,
Okay.
and Happy will
Yeah.
join.
Good.
Yeah. And I'm happy to do whatever is necessary to help that transition. But yeah, there's only been a very short amount of time that we've entered into the teacher negotiations, so hopefully they will understand that transitions are happening, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
Heather was extremely supportive.
Yeah.
That made me feel better too, but it's a
Yeah.
good point, and
Yeah.
thank you for raising it. Any other comments, questions? God bless you. Thought there was another one coming. Let's see. Oh, we have to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Is there any old business? I'm sorry.
Did we skip discussion?
Oh,
Where's my new item?
I almost did it again. Sorry, Emily had the new item, which I forgot what it was. Can you
About
refresh
the
me?
retreat discussion.
Oh, the discussion of our retreat, correct. Okay, so now it's a motion to, no.
Nope, it's just
Just a discussion.
Here we are.
I just wanted to update everyone because I know I wasn't
Dizzy.
able to be there. So that's it. So just for the record, this past Saturday, the Board of Education held a special meeting. In attendance were Galen Colley, Greg DeSantis, Seth Klaskin, Tom Pellegrino, Katie Stein, Tom Screese, and myself. The meeting was facilitated by Attorney Tom Mooney, legal counsel, and we met for about 3.5 hours. We had a good discussion. We discussed the rights, responsibilities, and duties of board members, as well as the recently completed board member self-evaluation. Attorney Mooney emphasized that the work of the board is primarily allocating resources and adopting policies, and likened the board to the legislative branch of the government and the superintendent, the executive. We discussed board member communication that may occur outside of public meetings, whether via email or phone or individual meetings, and we agreed on the importance of limiting any conversation or work done outside of committee and full board meetings in the spirit of promoting trust and transparency and productive discussion. I personally found it to be a very productive and helpful meeting, and just wanted to report on that for the full board. And I look forward to working together on the important work, like you mentioned, that we have ahead of us. So I appreciated the opportunity, the retreat, and Attorney Mooney's time to meet with us. So I found it really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, and we did discuss people that had other commitments and were not able to be there. We did ask if there were questions that came up, and so I would encourage people, if they do have questions, we can get a list going, even people that were there, if there are things that have cropped up, and you have questions that you'd like to ask, let's put together a list of questions, and we can either ask Attorney Mooney to join us again to help answer them, so that the collective board can all hear the same information.
Yeah, I want to emphasize one thing,
Please.
because I thought it was very valuable, and I greatly appreciated the discussion amongst everybody, and I thought it was very timely and just helpful. But Attorney Mooney, I think, I forget exactly how he said it, but basically when we were talking about the way we operate in whole board meetings, he kind of gave a, well, why do you do that kind of response, but he was fun in that way. Fun for an attorney, especially.
No offense now.
But he really encouraged us to have more open discussions here at the board, and to limit as much as possible the discussions that are happening outside of board meetings, so that we can have them here in public for everyone to see, and everyone here to hear at the same time, for everybody to participate. And I think if we adopt that as a board and kind of change the style of these meetings a bit in that direction, that not only will it be toward what he, in his long experience, would expect to see from boards, but also just useful for us in learning about what's happening and communicating with each other, so I hope that we can do that.
I would just, I would echo the comments that, I thought it was a very helpful retreat. I thought there was a lot of good to-do items that we all took away from the meeting. I think Greg made a really good point about the reflection from Tom Mooney, who was really there not as legal counsel as much as he was a facilitator, he's a trained facilitator, which was perfectly helpful for him. Greg's point about having these discussions more and more out in the open, I would second that. The only other thing I would add is, we act as a group, but in terms of having open communications, facilitating information, I can't think of anybody better suited to lead us now facilitating that than our current chair, Jamie Stein.
I will endeavor to live up to that promise. Any questions? We'll do more retreats, Kurt, so you can be there.
You liked it so much, I think it was every Saturday. So.
Mark your every other.
Starting to feel detention.
It's like detention.
Do we have to vote on that? No, that was just a discussion. Okay. So meetings and dates of importance are attached. And so now I need a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?